Hello, family. Hello, party people. Hello, fellow spiritual spoonies. How are we all doing? I'm feeling great today, actually, so that's nice. And I feel like we should start out today's reading by acknowledging that we all got here to this life without any kind of set of instructions, and yet we're all supposedly supposed to know how to live our lives. And a lot of times, a lot of people have a really hard time dealing with criticism because, they were never criticized in a safe way when they were growing up. Or they were rarely criticized in a safe way, Because, there's a healthy way to criticize people, or a healthy way to criticize your children specifically, and then also an unhealthy way. Healthy criticism requires zero shaming. You don't have to shame someone to provide them with information about their behavior that empowers them to modify said behavior, right? But an awful lot of people, they shame any and everyone when they offer criticism, whether that anyone is a child or an adult or an elderly person or a mentally ill person or whatever. You know how we say some people are highly critical? I don't think it's even about the criticism. It's about the shaming. There ought to be a word for that specifically, because shameful doesn't describe it, because shameful means a person who behaves in ways they should be ashamed of, right? But anyway, something about that's really come through at the top of this reading. Something about shaming. I don't want to... It's not a don't, it's a do. I do want to encourage people to break free from that inner shaming by learning to criticize those around them without being judgmental or shamey about it. Does that make sense? Because this is a habit. If you're in the habit of judging people harshly when you dole out criticisms, it's understandable, because most of us come from environments where shame and criticism were delivered hand in hand. And also, that's understandable because if we've been hurt by somebody, the judgment can feel like a wall, like a protective wall, a barrier between us and them. But we want to form boundaries, not barriers, right? At least I want to have boundaries, not barriers for myself. And I know that for myself, sometimes it can get confusing, like where to draw the line. And I think a lot of times drawing that line, it's relative, it's conditional. So it might be, we might draw that line in a little bit of a different place from one relationship to another. For instance, you have much, much, much higher expectations, I think, of a partner than you do of your child or your parent. Or at least that's how I feel. I know that it's popular these days to have exceedingly high expectations of your parents. But even before I became a parent myself, I was pretty keen to look at the fact that, my parents didn't come into existence out of a vacuum. Their choices were informed by cultural pressures, financial pressures, acculturation, the way that they were raised, all kinds of stuff. We all exist in these big, broad contexts, these big, giant, complicated, complex galaxies of constellations, Everything is relative and interdependent in this big-ass web of cause and effect, Cause and effect. So let's set a mood beyond that. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Right out the gate, we got the star. I'm going to show you this star too because it's so beautiful. I believe this is Kuan Yin on this particular card. Now, even though this star card in the Voyager Tarot is symbolized by Kuan Yin, who is a goddess of compassion in Buddhism, right? I feel like this particular star card has a real active vibe to it. It's very connected to the cosmos. And you can also see this large heron in the background about to take flight, and blossoming flowers down there in the bottom. A jewel that has been cut into a specific shape and polished, as opposed to just the raw form of the gemstone. This card really invites us to think of ourselves as a microcosm of the macrocosm, and how everything that exists has a place in the macrocosm. You know, it serves a function in that broader web of cause and effect that I just referenced. So even if you feel like you're inconsequential, like you're an insignificant person or something like that, you're not. Because everything that happens and everyone that exists, everything that exists is a part of that complex web of cause and effect that makes reality even possible. And so you do matter. You're a part of making the world what it is, of making society what it is, of making reality on this 3D planet possible at all. And that in and of itself is valuable. It's sacred. It's not just valuable, it is sacred. That's, to me, that's like the core of sacredness, that everything is interconnected, yet we also get to be our own individual selves. And it's hard to keep those things in balance, or our awareness of those things in balance. At least I find that hard. You know, you're dealing with a 3D. This body, it's such a pain in the butt. You know, trying to feed it, take care of it. Wouldn't it be nice if it were just made out of air? You know, just fly around, and you didn't need to sleep. You didn't know. It seems like there'd be a lot less ups and downs, but I don't think that it actually works that way for our energetic being friends. So, you know, there's that. And I did take a moment to look up, that's why my keyboard was sitting here when I paused the video, to look up what James Wanless and, what's the artist's name? James Wanless developed the concept for this deck. He's a psychologist who was kind of a life coach type guy, like corporate life coach, I think. Corporate spiritual life coach, like back in the 80s when this deck was made. But it's still a great deck. I love it. Despite some of the problematic features of the self-development stuff of the 80s and 90s. It's still a beautiful, beautiful, and very insightful deck, and a very insightful book. So anyways, I paused the video. When I paused the video, I did look up some things to confirm what James Wanless and his artist who did the collages for every card, something Knutson, I can't remember his first name, what was their intention for creating the card in this way. And James Wanless wanted this card to remind people that when we respect our unique place in the vast cosmos, in the vast interconnected web of cause and effect, that we see true value in this. We don't try to be something we aren't. It's really, he really wanted to talk about being compassionate to the self so that you can fully be yourself, so that you can really do what you are best at and thrive in doing that. So that is what we are talking about today. I'm talking to a collective who they have the internal and external resources to do this work, and that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. Because I'm sure that those inner and external qualities and resources didn't all come easily. People who are in this place, it's because they've earned it to some degree. No matter how old or how young or how little or how much you feel like you've been through. I feel strongly I'm talking to a collective who has earned this ability to step into their own, you know. And if you haven't been congratulating yourself on that very much, I highly recommend that you do. That you celebrate who you are and your unique place in the cosmos. All right, let's pull some cards. Some old-fashioned tarot. Let's see what Spirit wants to tell us. Trusting in the universe. It's also kind of like, do what you like. Like what feels authentic to you. Lean into it. And trust that leaning into it is a signal to the cosmos, to the vast web of cause and effect, that a sequence of events should initiate and unlock towards you in your favor. I'm seeing like just a random person step into the I think it's called I don't know what the front of a train is called, the part where the engineer hangs out, you know, and it makes the train go. I'm seeing the person step up into that part so they can take off on their little train, and then they take off on their train, and the train starts this journey, and as it goes along the track, it sets off other trains on other tracks, and then those trains cross back onto the original track and make stops at stations, dropping off stuff along the way, and the first person's train picks up that stuff. What I'm seeing in my mind is complicated. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically I'm talking about strings of cause and effect intersecting in your favor. And you initiate that process by leaning into what feels authentic to you to do. And it might be multiple things that you like to do too. So there's that. You don't have to choose. But you do have to. You are guided by this reading too. It's different periods of time for different people in the collective. I am sensing. But whatever time frame it is for you, use your discernment and your intuition. Lean into the thing that feels the most authentic to you, moment to moment. You know, maybe you're interdisciplinary, or maybe you're like a total expert in one thing. Regardless of which applies to you, you'll know what's authentic to you. If this reading is resonating with you, you're one of the people that you are a person who has worked their way to that level of discernment, where when something feels authentic, when it's right, you feel it, you know it. Your nervous system is not holding you back from your inner knowing, from your discernment in that sense right now. But I guess I feel like I want to throw that out there because the last reading I did, it was heavy. It was pretty intense, pretty thick energy of a story I was picking up on. So, you know, and if any viewers liked that and made them want to come back for the next reading, this feels like a very different collective. today. But if you are tuning into this one just because you like to hear the reading and you liked, but it's not resonating with you, and that last one did, I'm sure I will be picking up on similar stories to that one or a continuation of that one as time goes by. So, I tell them as I hears them. I could say that. And there are different stories for different groups on different days. But for our star power friends here, I'm feeling kind of like divination, the divination station. We're looking at unfolding things. And I'm hearing that is my last shuffle. Alrighty. I want to start out with the past, present, and future. Past. Present. Oh, one wanted to fall out. I'm going to do 2 for the present. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'll just do that one for the present. And I know there are two ways of going about it, right? Spirit. Okay. So, I hear you, Spirit. I hear you. Okay, so I feel like we've got a couple different types of people. Oh, wait a minute. It's not different types of people. It's different types of action, but it can apply to all the people in the collective. Okay. So, so the Spirit wants to talk about how different, like discernment vibes. I'm having a hard time putting this into words. Different ways of intuiting things. We're going to look at how there's something about that applies to like your authentic self in your dreams. And the one way is about feeling things out, like slowing down. I don't know if this will apply to everyone in the collective, but some people can really, really feel energy with their hands, like their skin. If you're one of those people, you'll totally know what I mean. Like you can literally feel it. Like you can feel different thicknesses, I want to say. And then, so that's the sensing, the feeling it out. And then there's this other way of intuiting things where we notice what jumps out, what synchronizes, what would seem random if you didn't have a certain kind of intuition, but because you do, you know that it's not random, like noticing that kind of stuff. So there's these 2 different ways, like the noticing way of discernment and the sensing way, like the feeling it out way. And I hope that makes sense, but I'm just going to trust the universe, trust the cosmos, because I'm being authentic to my own self by giving this reading, and in the way that I'm doing it, I'm having faith that it'll unfold properly. So if you're resonating with this reading, you're sticking in with it because it's speaking to you, then you will know. You will know what I'm talking about. Okay, so what are we talking about in terms of things that jump out at us? I need to reflect for a moment. I was going to turn on the tabletop video and show you the layout of the cards here, but I feel like I still can. It would be too complicated to explain how I'm getting this, but I can show you nonetheless, I suppose. Okay, so first of all, I really feel a resonating energy between this Hangman reversed and the Four of Pentacles reversed. And there's a guidance here about being really well balanced between letting go and holding on, surrendering to what is, and what's the other side of that? Being very active where being active is effective. Okay, and this is why I like spreads. This is like just a mini spread too, though. But since I also see this energy working here on this diagonal, that it extends beyond just these two. So at the top we're talking about the sensing aspect, and on the bottom we're talking about our more noticing aspect. Okay, so in the past you may have had a tendency to not. Eight of Pentacles has to do with work. You're putting effort into something to get a result. There we go. And it's reversed, which could talk about, I hate to use the word laziness, but let's call it executive dysfunction. You know, it's a little bit kinder. Because typically speaking, when we're lazy, it's not really a choice, right? It's because we are bogged down by, a lot of times it'll be things that we're not even all that aware of, like we're in some kind of like death by a million paper cuts kind of situation, and that makes it so hard to identify, why am I unmotivated? Well, because for so many reasons you couldn't even begin to itemize them all. That's just a little aside. The Eight of Pentacles could be too about not knowing your limits, working too hard. So there's a real vibe here moving through this diagonal about respecting your own limits and your own potential so that you can work effectively, which is interesting too, because we're talking about doing whatever is the most authentic to you, whether that's one path, whether that's a multidisciplinary path, whatever it is that's true for you. And in order to really do that well, you really need to sense what your limitations and your potential are. Feel it in your body and trust it the same way that you might trust the vibe check when you walk into a room. If you're that, like I said, if you're that kind of person who feels the energy, you can feel it on your skin, you can feel it in your bones. Different people conceptualize that in different ways, but you know, it's a genuine informative sensing thing. I don't know how to put that, but if this is resonating with you, you already know what I'm talking about. Okay, so you might have had a tendency to do that, not work as effectively within your limits and potentials as you could. And that's okay. Life is a learning process, right? No shame. Like I said when I started off this reading, this is a no shame zone. We are not faulting ourselves or others for what they are not aware of yet, or what we weren't aware of in the past, or whatever. Life doesn't come with a rule book, and we were not raised by people who had a rule book, you know. And not having a good sense in the past of those limits and those potentials, of knowing what to surrender to and what to resist. Probably causing some anxiety. Like, fear of things that didn't really need to be afraid of, that you didn't really need to be afraid of. The unknown, just like fear of the unknown, basically. Because you weren't sensing through that authenticity lens, through that embodied sense that what way to go, what to do. But surrendering to what's authentic to you and resisting barriers to doing what's authentic to you, that's your guidebook right now. And this is interesting too, because the Knight of Cups can talk about idealization, right? So over here we're talking about fear of unknown things. But when we idealize, a lot of times that has to do with unknowns too. The Knight of Cups can be prone also to fantasizing, romanticizing things, seeing things through rose-colored glasses, seeing things, it can also even go in a toxic positivity direction, seeing things too sunny and bright. And right now, Spirit is talking to me as these being kind of opposite sides of the coin, the Knight of Cups and the Nine of Swords here. Between seeing things as... It's basically the difference between what's the worst that could happen and what's the best that could happen. And then in here, it's not an accident that you've got this hangman right in the middle between them, knowing what to surrender to and what to resist. What to romanticize. Well, it's not even about what to romanticize. It's being able to observe our own tendencies to romanticize or fear the unknown based on what little we do know. Is there any other guidance, Spirit, here on sensing what is and is not authentic? I think that's pretty succinct. And there goes the plane. We're taking off. This is like an accelerant reading. I think, too, if you have stumbled across this reading and it has really resonated with you, it's kind of a green light reading. It's a confirmation reading. You are a person who... you have a lot of intuition. You're sensing the flow. It's not quite time to start the races. It's not a speedy energy. It's cosmic. It's spacey. I like it. I like it a lot. Makes me think about like being in the mountains in the middle of the night. I'm looking up through the trees and just feeling like this sense of wonder and awe about your surroundings and having no other concern in the world, just no other thought on your mind whatsoever, other than just taking in these beautiful surroundings and feeling so grateful that that moment, that place on earth, that it exists at all. That's what this reading has given me, that feeling. If you have a relatable experience like that you can reflect on, think about the feeling of that moment. There's something about the feeling of that moment that will help you understand your limitations and your potential. And how to work within those. I think that's it. Let's see if we got any final advice. Kind of makes me want to... Bunch of them fell apart. Makes me want to do more of them today. More readings. I happen to have the time. Although I could definitely stand to use that time in other ways. Oh, la-da-dee, la-da-da. Oh, Archangel Sandalphon. I always like it when the angel cards come out. The Bridge. Because that I'm chuckling because that reversed Hanged Man really felt like a bridge between a past way of looking at things or a past mode of just being in a different kind of space, and you're moving quite clearly into this other space, the bridge. Carrier of prayers to the divine, music and harmony. So, having a harmonious view of your limitations and your potential. Why has it got to be so hard to learn these things? Well, because sometimes some of our things are things that are always changing. So we're always having to adapt to little changes. And it's more work than we realize, you know? You're also asked by Spirit that whatever it is that is authentic to you that you're doing, that feels like in the flow, consider how that contributes to the greater good. Evolution, positive change. And also, just how clearing out things sometimes and destroying things sometimes makes room for new things. Healthier things, brighter things, good things, things that make you smile, things that make you feel healthier. Well, that one is very much in line with some of the other things I was talking about at the top of the reading. It's unlikely that you will find solutions if you are busy looking for blame. Acknowledge, release, practice, rinse and repeat, you know. Yeah, so if you're looking back on like some time, maybe that feels wasted, I'm getting that with the Eight of Pentacles reversed. Because it can also, Eight of Pentacles reversed can also refer to feeling like you worked hard on something for nothing, like it didn't lead anywhere. There's some guidance here that there's no such thing as that. Like whatever work that you've done in the past, or you've attempted to do, or whatever. It's all gone into making you who you are, and you have everything going for you to be rewarded for being your authentic self. So, do not worry about that. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't waste another thought on it. Well, fear is just as likely, this is the last one I'm going to read. Fear is just as likely to be a valid response to legitimate threats as it is to be the product of limiting beliefs. The key is to determine what can and cannot be changed, to seek support when we need it, and nurture resilience and hope in ourselves and others. Yeah, there's a lot of rhetoric that goes around in the spiritual community that, makes you think all would seem to imply any fear is self-imposed, is a self-limiting belief. But, if your experiences have taught you that bad things happen if this other thing happens first, and if you've been in a situation where you could not prevent that first thing from happening, it's logical and rational to be afraid of what comes next after that first thing happens again, right? So that's just a little, a little hug. In case you felt a little beat up sometimes by some spiritual rhetoric, self-blamey, self-shamey. I don't want anybody who listens to my readings or my content or my music, anything, to feel those feelings of like self-shame and self-blame, because nobody has ever been shamed into growing, right? Nobody. That just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There was something else about that too, and about fears. Well, like, we did pull that Nine of Swords, fear of the unknown. I think it's just saying, like, oh, if you felt, when we were talking about that part just a minute ago in the reading, we were talking about being afraid of the unknown. If you feel any little sense of shaming or blaming yourself, like, oh, I was scared and I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, or I did something the wrong way because of a fear I had in the past, do not beat yourself up about that whatsoever. I feel like that's why that final advice card came through, just in case somebody might have felt like that. Yeah, that's okay. So you can step away from that feeling now. It's all right. And perhaps having felt that way actually has purpose to it. Maybe, you'll see somebody else feeling that way someday and be able to give them a hug and be like, hey, I know how you're feeling, and I'm here to tell you, you don't got to feel that way. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate your time. Our lives are just a series of moments all strung together, and you just spent some of those moments with me, and that is an honor to have you spend any amount of your life with me at all, right? If you like that and you're hoping to hear more about your journey with your hopes and dreams and whatnot, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I will hopefully pick up on your energy again in the future. Have a good one.